once the ritual to remove the archdemon from your brother was completed, he has fallen asleep, and that was about 12 hours ago. In fairness, he has not slept since he left Weishaupt, so presumably he's got some shit to catch up on.
Yeah, that's fair. Is Zevran checking in on him? Do I know he's, okay and being watched?
Zevran has not left his side.
Okay. Checks out.
But I'm interested to know more what you are doing in this gap of time, because you've got the Archon meeting in the morning, but...
I think I've been just, staring, untrustfully at the, place where the demon is housed.
That's in the basement, so you're leaving your brother alone?
I mean, if Zevran's got him, I feel like I spent, a couple hours up there, but after it got boring after, an hour, I was like, Zevran, you've got this, right? So yeah, no, because it's fascinating and horrible and terrifying that there's just, an archdemon trapped in the bottle in the basement. And I feel like somebody should be watching it. So I've nominated myself.
Well, a couple minutes into this watch, you hear footsteps coming from behind you. Lannon emerges and he says, you really shouldn't be down here.
I turn around and I'm like, why?
Because it's an archdemon. It's got the blight. You don't know how the blight works. He grabs you by the shoulders and he steers you out.
No, somebody has to land it. No. Someone has to watch it. What if somebody else gets the blight?
That's how the blight transmits. Magical artifacts can give you the blight if you stay close to them long enough.
Okay. Well, what's a safe distance? Here? Is it here? I just stand by the door.
How about into winter, he says, steering you toward.
I'm just landing. Do we have a security protocol in place? I just don't want anybody else getting into this.
He says, well, I've got my honor guard. They've been watching the house. So, yes, it's fine.
Fine. I guess the honor guard is fine. I just look at him. I'm just this is going to end badly. And I stalk upstairs. He said, okay, whatever. So you head upstairs. Ren is one of the few that is staying in Kirkwall. I think it's also Hawk and Fenris that are staying in Kirkwall, and Zevran and Ren, and I think that's it. I think that's the only ones. Anyway, so Ren he's starting to toss and turn, and it does look like he's maybe having some sort of unpleasant dream, but Zevran is sort of sitting upright on the bed next to him with his back against the headboard of the bed, and he looks up when you come in, and he makes it a motion over his mouth, shut up, let him sleep. I nod quietly and sit back. And I sort of just, ask in a whisper, has he been doing this for a while? He says, he has. I think, the good news is I think this is a regular Grey Warden nightmare. He used to get nightmares like this back during the Blight. I stare at him kind of pensively. I remember a time when he didn't have nightmares. It was a long time ago for all of us, I think. Yeah. How long has he been doing this for? This specific nightmare or nightmares in general? The specific one. About an hour. If it gets too bad, I'll wake him up. Maybe force some food into him, but he seems alright enough for now. He needs to get that sleep. Do you need a break? I can watch him for a while. I'm not going to leave his side until he's completely awake. It's a noble gesture, as always, Zevran. I don't know if I'd call it nobility. In fact, I feel like it's quite selfish of me, actually. Oh? I'm not the only one in this room who has reason to want to spend alone time with him, but, well, I suppose, theoretically, we could start thinking about the future now, huh? An odd thought. He seems keen to join this, what clan was it? Sulanan. That little brat put it in his mind. I sort of, chuckle ruefully. Is you're not keen the same? Oh, I didn't say that. He says, well then, what are your plans? I mean, to be honest, Zevran, I didn't think too much past the next crisis. He says, I know that mentality. That's the mentality of someone who's used to having to survive and not to live. Yeah. He says, but for a few moments, allow yourself some optimism. Assume that you're going to survive the end of this blight, that you will have a life to return to after this. Oh, it's a big assumption, Zevran. It's a big assumption. He says you'd rather stay bleak? At least if you don't hope for the future, it doesn't hurt so much when it doesn't happen. He says, but it hurts now more, yes? Living in the certainty that you're going to die cannot be healthy or happy. Who needs to be healthy or happy, Zevran? Well, you and my brother, but maybe for some of us that's not our lot in life.
He says, I've thought about it a little bit. He says, my mother was Dalish.
I didn't know that. I would never have guessed.
She died giving birth to me, so the Dalish culture always was a point of fascination for me in my youth. Shortly before I was recruited by the Antivan Crows, I snuck out of the whorehouse in which I was raised and found a passing Dalish clan. I thought about joining them, but of course, the reality of living in a Dalish clan was not quite what I had anticipated it would be, dreaming of my mother and the life she had before.
Was it just the memories are too bitter, or you didn't like the manual labor?
He says, well, it's a little bit of both.
I mean, that's fair. Do you think you would go with him to Clan Sulanan?
I think with him I could go nowhere else.
Well, that's disgustingly sweet.
You did ask.
I mean, let's assume I survive all of this. I would want to follow wherever Ren goes. I've missed him long enough. And Lannon seems like he might be open to reestablishing that connection back to its roots. It's the only home I've ever truly known.
Every single person in the Lucerne has noticed by now the Valasline that now covers most of his upper body.
Yeah. What about it?
And the two of you have been suspiciously quiet about its appearance, is all I'm saying.
Well, it's not mine to tell, is it?
He's just kind of grinning knowingly. He's like, if you say so, my friend.
You're as bad as Ren, I swear.
He says, if we are going to rejoin a Dalish clan, we might think of, well, I know at the moment that it's been overrun by the minions of the Dread Wolf, but presuming we are able to rout them, perhaps we could do something with this Arleth Len, make a permanent home for the Dalish.
That's interesting. I wonder how the rest of the clan would feel about that.
Well, perhaps we have the opportunity to ask them.
Ugh, it's a big assumption, Zevran. It's still hard for me to think that far ahead, but I don't know. It might be nice to not travel for once, to stay in one place.
He nods and he says, well, like you said, there's no guarantee.
Nope, we'll probably all die tomorrow. And I punch him in the shoulder.
He just stares. He just stares at you in silence and shakes his head sadly, like, what's he gonna do about it, huh? So it is the next morning. The character select screen pops up because you have a date with the Archon.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So obviously, Leander has to come because you're going to present him as his successor. But past that, he's coming whether or not you want him to, but you can have a combat NPC come with you as well.
Oh god, who are we going to be fighting at the Ark?
Presumably no one, but this is me, so who knows?
Okay.
Right.
So, I feel like Dorian would be a wise choice.
Yeah.
We need a vent!
Yeah.
I need a vent.
Dorian or Maveris, but I like Dorian.
Okay, so you bring Dorian and Leander, and I think I mentioned this to you before, but whoever becomes the Archon is going to become a non-combat ally as soon as. So you are no longer going to be able to use Leander in combat.
God damn it.
Bummer.
So bright and early, you all wake up and you agree that you're going to be taking Dorian and Leander to the Imperial Senate, which is where the Archon had arranged to meet you. By now, you are all very familiar with the Imperial Senate. You've been there many times. It is still way too much, still gilded, lots of stained glass, lots of polished hardwood floors. You also have been in the Archon seat, which is where you went briefly when you first spoke to Radanis, that little private quarters behind the Senate floor, where the Archon privately told you that he is on your side and that he wants to help you end slavery and restore and redeem Tevinter. But you had only been there once, and you're still not really used to how beautiful it is. Yeah, the marble floors clack under your heels as you head back, and there are two bodyguards that are flanking the doors to a large sort of sitting room. The doors are open. They're double doors. They're standing open, and you can see Radanis sort of inclined on the seat, waiting for you. He looks up when you all come around the corner, and he gestures you inside with a jerk of his head.
I guess we go in.
Yep.
Dorian is the first in. He does a short bow. He says, Archon Radanis, it's good to see you again. And Radanis says, is it? Every time we meet, we seem to be in the middle of some crisis. And Dorian, shrugs. And he says, sounds like, yeah, that's fair. He says, so am I to take your presence here as a confirmation that you are going to be accepting my inheritance, Dorian? And Dorian says, so actually, about that.
About that, indeed.
He looks back at the three of you.
I think we actually have an alternative to suggest.
He says, alternative? What alternative?
Well, we spent some time talking about the necessary qualifications to be Archon, and, well, we would like to instead propose Leander take the post. He's no longer tranquil. We managed to restore his magic.
So, Archon Radanis is silent for a long time, and it's difficult to read his face. He's staring mostly at you, Elian.
Uh-huh.
His eyes briefly snap over to Leander. So Leander is next to you, Elian. You're both on a settee, like a plush settee. Leander is sort of slouched backward with one leg folded over the other, his hands resting over the back of the settee. He looks very comfortable. The Archon glances at the elf and then back to you, and he says, are you stupid? Dorian is the first to say, Archon, think about it. He says, no, I don't need to think about it. This is a terrible idea. You're putting forward an elven ex-slave as Archon? There will be riots in the street.
My impression is there already are.
True. Leander says, he's right. There are already riots in the street. You want to calm down a slave riot? Then appease them. Really appease them. Give them something that could actually change their lot in life. And the Archon seems a little startled that Leander had inserted himself so cavalierly into the conversation. He's not used to this kind of behavior from elves.
Yeah.
He says, you think this would appease a slave riot? Leander says, it's certainly a step in the right direction. What was your plan up until this point? Because so far as I can tell, you didn't have one. The riot raged for over a week. Hundreds of slaves are dead. If you claim, as you have said you do, that you care about the welfare of slaves and the true restoration and redemption of Tevinter, they should be the first ones on your list of people to really appease, to really try to make their lives better. This is a way to do that. Radanis' expression throughout Leander's speech has slowly shifted. And by the time Leander is done speaking, Radanis leans over, bracing his hands on his knees, and he says, you're no longer tranquil. How did you manage to break that? Leander says, with a very simple, actually, magical ritual that forced the power of a spirit through the barrier of magic around my mind. It snapped it in half, and my emotions were released. He glances at Elian, kind of a trying couple of days in the first few. It's fine. It's mostly stabilized now. I'm fine. Radanis immediately says, where did you learn magic? Leander says, I taught myself. Radanis answers immediately, a self-taught mage? That's unheard of. He says, what option did I have? I was an 8-year-old slave. I got guidance from spirits that were kind enough to teach me in the Fade occasionally, but mostly I trained myself. He says, Radanis, if you're worried about my acumen as a mage, you don't need to be. I am smart, I am strong, I am capable, I can do this. And Radanis sits back a moment later and he says, perhaps this will be the end of Tevinter, but I believe you. I mean, you're all crazy. Every single one of you is out of your mind for suggesting this.
We're not arguing with that.
But I believe you when you say you can do this. He says, all right then. An elf it is. If this marks the end of my reign, I might as well go out with a bang, I suppose.
We're about radical change here.
This was honestly a lot easier than I expected.
Radonus says, while you all have been traveling Thetis recruiting for the Blight, I've been working the home front. He says, I've got almost half of the Senate in my corner, who will vote yes to assist with the Blight, but there is still a faction of the Senate that is being stubbornly obstinate. He says, they are the Imperial Chantry loyalists that are giving me the most trouble. And I have a feeling that the people best suited to go in and handle this situation are you all. You all just seem to have a way of handling problems with unusual efficacy.
Is that code for you want us to kill them all?
No.
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 While you two are saying, no, absolutely not, Radonus says, well, only if you have to. There are surely some easier ways, but, wholesale murder is certainly one route you could go down.
Maybe I like Tevinter more than I thought.
Oh, no.
He says, the ones that are being the most obstinate are the cardinals. If you do not know what cardinals are, Elian, this is something that's unique to the Imperial Chantry.
Cool.
And he says, whereas the Southern Chantry has, mothers, revered mothers, and sisters, we have cardinals, deacons, various ranks that are more or less the same as what you're used to in the South. He says, all of the ones in the Senate that are giving me a hard time are either cardinals or are vying to become cardinals. And he says, the weakest link in this otherwise impenetrable chain is a man named Lavinius Ego.
That's a name.
Right? It sure is. Sounds very Tevinter.
He says, he's a craven bastard. He's been trying for years unsuccessfully to become the newest appointed cardinal. This year he's closer than he ever was. He might be in a good position to bully for information, or you could just kill him, like you said. Master Elf, just beat it out of him. He says, doesn't particularly matter to me. He has a son who's ready to take over his seat if he does die, so it shouldn't be any drastic change to the balance of power if he is dead by the end of the day.
Sounds like my idea of a good time. I just turn around at the others. And at the horrified looks in your faces, I'm like, I suppose we can try diplomacy first.
Good boy.
He says, how you handle it is up to you. I'm sure you'll be able to find something interesting. It'll be a challenge tracking it down, but you haven't shied away from challenges so far, so...
Absolutely not. Where do we find this Lavinius Ego? Do you know?
He says he lives in the western quarter, if you want to call on him at his own home. Or you can wait for him to arrive in the Imperial Senate for a regular meeting tomorrow morning. Up to you. And he stands and he says, Leander, right? And Leander says, yes, Archon, Leander. He says, why don't you follow me? If you're going to be my successor, we've got a lot to discuss. And Leander glances over his shoulder at the rest of you, shrugs, and stands to follow Radonus out.
I just give him a little encouraging grin.
So, Lavinius Ego. Dorian says, I know that name. I think I can guide you to his estate if necessary. How do we want to go about this?
So is the diplomacy thing where you just threaten to beat their heads in, but you don't actually do it?
Oh, well, it isn't Tevinter.
Oh, dear. Either way, I'm gonna have to write about where I'm going, what I'm doing.
Sucks to be you. You did ask for the position of Archon. Cassandra, I remind you.
I did. I am just reminding myself.
I feel like they would approve of this. Are they really going to
Killing
care?
a Tevinter, they would definitely approve. Yeah.
I just look at him of course they would. The Kunori hate Tevinter.
Excellent. So we have... Someone needs to talk me out of this, because I'm just going to say that we should beat him up, so I need someone else here to...
I mean...
It may be the way of things in Tevinter, but we could try not doing that.
I mean, Dorian, what do we know about him? Would there be any other way we could pressure him?
He says, I don't know the man very well. He says, my loyalty to the Chantry is really more in spirit and deed, not so much in...
Politics?
Craven attempts at politicking, yeah. He says, I don't know him personally, although we've worked together on a few bills in the past. He says, he's sort of, what's the best verb to describe him? Rat-like? both in countenance and in personality. Very obsequious, slimy. With Leander's old master out of the picture, he is probably on not the short list for the next Black Divine, but certainly the extended list.
Interesting.
He says, I think he would respond very well to, being shoved into a locker and punched into submission. But he also probably would be, it would also work just regular flattery and pretty lies. That would also work. He's very easy to manipulate.
I'm like staring and I'm like, well, I'm only good at one of those things, so.
We wouldn't expect you to do that one.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, good, because it's just that wouldn't end well for anyone. Is that what we want to do? Do you want to try that first?
He says, I leave it in your hands. The Archon is right. You all have proved, astonishingly competent.
Trust me, we're as surprised as you are.
Cass is going to bring up, pretty lies is more like a bard thing, as far as I'm aware.
Considering you can't lie to save your life, yeah.
Dorian says, what do you want to do, flirt with him? I do hear that he has, tastes.
You should definitely flirt with him. Oh my god.
Oh? What kind of taste, Dory?
Well, let's just say Elian doesn't miss the mark that much.
Oh. Interesting.
Have I told you lately that I hate you?
Listen, you all are spitballing ideas on how to handle this. I am merely offering a suggestion.
If you're not going to be mad at me for, kind of gesture to the fact that, hello, I'm dating Leander, big enough issue, I would have thought for you.
He says, so far as I can tell, Leander is not the jealous type. I remember the Arlethven as well as anyone else.
Okay, that's a point.
I feel like you need to dress like the biggest fop in the entire world.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pulling out my hat and the scarlet cape that I got at, Fantasy Christmas.
Cass is also you need to eat. I feel like you should have some of Faye Varys's cookies. That could help.
Oh, it is very endearing you think she hasn't fed you all twice today.
Right, exactly, twice today. She's like, you need to have more cookies, Elian. You look like you could use 5 more.
She already made you breakfast and brunch.
This has to happen. Let's do it.
Oh, God.
Oh, I am looking forward to this.
Oh, God.
Okay, so you head back to the Imperial Senate and you, share with the Lucerni the plan, and Fenris laughs a lot.
I flip Fenris off.
Zevran sort of, chuckles under his breath. He's like, alright, by your leave. You think he can fucking do this. So you go and you get dressed, you figure out what you're gonna wear. What is Elian's plan? Because, obviously, seduction, but, how are you going to get him to give up what he knows about, the Black Divine, about, how that you can, sway the Senate? What's your plan going into this?
I don't fucking know. Y'all suggested seduction.
Well, we had to figure out, how does seducing somebody, win them over to our side? Are we trying to, convince him to, change his vote? Or,
We're trying to get him to give us info.
Yeah, you're trying to get him to figure out, you're trying to get into the Chantry loyalist circle to see if there's any way that you could gain their favor or their vote, or failing that, some good blackmail information.
Okay, so you just want to get him really drunk, is what I'm thinking. Yeah, I mean, Elian, what do you have to have done this before.
Oh, no, out of character, Elian would absolutely have some kind of plan. I'm trying to think what my plan is.
What do our legions usually do?
You might... Maybe Elian is posing as, an ambassador from the Southern Chantry and trying to see if maybe we can join forces somehow. And, oh, aren't you so wise and handsome to consider the Southern Divines' assistance like this? And, oh, we can certainly change to Winter for the better. And, say, how are you going to vote on this particular bill? And is there any way I can change your mind if you do want the Southern Divines' loyalty?
Oh boy. I could make it worth your while.
But he does that all while leaning really close to him and just being
absolutely.
Have I heard someone told you have really beautiful lips?
Elian 100% does that thing where you look up through the eyelashes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh god, yes. But that's true. You are the only one that has a connection to the Chantry, so you gotta use that, buddy.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was thinking was okay, so something about the Southern Divine in working together with them.
Maybe, like, the Southern Divine wants to, like, extend a hand of friendship to the Imperial Chantry, but to do that, well, first we have to secure Tevinter from the Blight, obviously.
Right. I mean, that's the number one priority is, like, there's a whole big thing going down. It's right at your door. You could, like, play up, too, that you're like, well, it's not to brag or anything, but I personally know Leliana.
That could go either way, and I don't know him well.
I mean, it seems like if he's, like, power hungry, he might be like, oh, do you now?
You can, like, fish around for it. I feel like drop her name and then, like, see
right,
how it
exactly.
reacts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, make it, like, a mistake. Like, I mean, Divine. I'm so sorry.
Divine Victoria.
Disgusting. I love it.
Yes.
So, Lavinia's Ego lives in the equivalent of, like, a New York brownstone. Like, it's a townhouse, but it's, like, really fancy. Like, it's got the fancy wrought iron gate at the front. It's got the big double doors. It's got the big panel of glass on the roof to let for a massive sunroom on the top level. It's about 4 stories tall, you think. And even though it is small, you are sure that this, like you all have seen, like, New York brownstones, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you look at them and you're like, it's small, but that thing definitely costs $5 million.
Right.
So he lives in that sort of area of the neighborhood. And Dorian says, all right, so I am just here in this story to escort you to meet him. Is that right?
Yes.
A mutual friend to facilitate this transaction. He says, giggling and looking at you.
I elbow him.
I cannot wait for you to see this, man. This plan is going to go so badly.
It's your idea.
I merely suggested it. You didn't have to listen to me. And he knocks on the front door.
Fuck you.
A slave opens the front door, of course, a small elven girl, and Dorian announces himself, Dorian of House Poths, here to see the Magister. And the elf inclines her head and steps aside and lets him in. The inside it's very try-hard. Like, everything is just a little bit too clean. Like, nothing really looks lived in. It's like he's really trying to put up a front of, like, perfection and opulence and decadence. And the Andrastian imagery is everywhere. There's Andraste in the paintings on the wall. There's a statue of Andraste over the hearth. There's, like, the holy sunburst symbol carved into the walls. It's Andrastian.
Okay.
Wow. I hate this.
Oh, this is not true devotion.
And the elven slave, like, sits you down, gets you some refreshments, of course. And Dorian, like, is the first to sit down easily, folds his leg over the other, and he says, it's like, I am tickled pink that you ran with my suggestion, Ilian. I cannot wait to see the bard in action. I am beside myself with anticipation.
I hate you. Twice in a day, I'm telling you this.
Honestly, I've never agreed with Dorian before today, but suddenly I find myself...
Fuck you too.
So Dorian is eventually met. The door swings open, and Lavinia's Ego steps into the room. Lavinia's Ego is about 5'6". He's portly, he's short. The most pronounced feature that he has are 2 very large buck teeth. That are sticking out of the front of his mouth at a very unusual angle. His skin is blotchy and pockmarked. His hair is graying, and there's a large bald patch that takes up the majority of the crown of his head. And he is not your type, Elian. Like, I feel like I can, I know Elian pretty well, and I feel like I can safely assume that this is not Elian's type.
I'm gonna kill Dorian when we get home.
Dorian stands up and he says, Magister Ego, it is so very good to see you. And the Magister Ego looks very confused. He takes Dorian's hand, shakes it, and he says, I am surprised to see you here, Magister Pavis. What brings you here, if I may ask? He says, oh, well, you see, it's not actually about me. I'm merely facilitating a meeting. This, he says, turning around to Elian, is Elian Bayard. He is a, shall we say, confidant of the Southern Divine. He's here to speak to you. And Lavinia's Ego turns to look at you appraisingly, Elian, and ew! You know when men.
Yeah, you don't need to continue that sentence because that's a whole sentence. You know when men? Yes, it's gross and I hate it.
Yeah.
Oh god, Elian is so fucking thankful for his training to just keep a really good look on his face.
And he says, charmed.
Oh no, Magister, it is I who am charmed.
Dorian tries to keep a straight face. He covers his laugh with a cough, and he says, he's got quite a bit to speak to you about. He wouldn't make me privy to the details, unfortunately. As I understand, it's quite confidential. And Magister Ego says, indeed. Well, then how can I help you, Mr. Bayard? Or is it Monsieur?
Oh god.
Yes, I am having fun with this. Thank you for asking.
Oh my god.
Fuck you.
I'm gonna die.
Oh please, Elian will do fine.
Elian. Charmed, I'm sure.
Well, you see, I know that the Southern Divine has been here, and she's been trying so desperately to extend a hand of peace to the Imperial Chantry, and I know that, well, I've heard that you and some of your friends are just so devoted to the church, and I hoped that you might be able to maybe work with her.
He does puff and preen a little bit. He's very proud, clearly, of his loyalty to the Tevinter Chantry. And he says, well, at the risk of sounding boastful, I do know the Black Divine quite well, but I can't say that I have noticed any overtures of the blasphemous Southern Divine attempting to reach a hand in friendship out.
Well, why on earth would she be here if not to reach toward her cousins in the church? Why would she send us to speak with you?
He says, I was under the assumption that she was here as the neutral party between Tevinter and Kunendar. It's not that why she was here?
Everyone needs a story, of course. But that's not why she's truly here.
Roll deception, Elian Bayard.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, damn.
Because that is a lie and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
Of fucking course.
For everybody listening at home, I rolled a fucking 23.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
she did.
Oh,
And with 4
God.
stunt points, do you want to do anything with your stunt points?
Oh, my God.
Is there a seduction thing?
There is, yeah.
There is a seduction
Oh,
stunt,
God.
that's true.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be the flirting and the, like, jaunty little wink.
I mean, you rolled a 23. Like, that's a really good roll. And clearly Dorian had been absolutely correct that he has tastes. Like, clearly he's a man who likes himself a twink.
I need a bath.
Oh, boy.
And he says, well, that is a delicious bit of information, Elian, he says, like drawing out the syllables as long as he possibly can. He says, to think all this time this peace talk was a ruse for the blasphemous Southern Divine to get close to the true Divine. It is a thought, isn't it? And pray tell, what is it that she wants from her northern brethren?
Well, as any true member of the faith would want, we naturally would seek to reconcile both sides and to make one church beneath the Maker.
It's not entirely clear if Magister Ego is interpreting this literally or if he is trying to read metaphors into your words. Elian. He sort of leers down over you. He says, there are centuries of enmity between our two churches. You think such things could be settled by diplomacy alone?
Ew.
Oh, come on, this is like a perfect opportunity for gross flirting.
Well, maybe not diplomacy alone, unfortunately, but perhaps if we all came together against a common cause.
He looks a little startled. He realizes you're not talking about metaphor and you're actually not talking about sex.
Yeah, thank God.
And he says, the Blight?
Indeed.
He He says, oh, and then he realizes, oh, you're actually serious, like you're here literally on a diplomatic mission. And he's very disappointed. He says, well, I don't think I'll be of much help to you, unfortunately. He says, you see, he hesitates like he's not really sure he should be saying this. Like, clearly there's something he's thinking about, but he's not 100% sure if he wants to tell you.
Elian pouts.
And that does seem to work on him. Clearly he does have a type. And apparently it's like Orlesian twinks, I guess. And he says, if you are in earnest, I suppose it would be irresponsible not to tell you. He says, you should know that the Black Divine is already moving against the Southern Divine.
No, truly?
He hesitates. He heads over to the hearth where he's got like a stack of letters, like of correspondence from various people that he's just, stacked up. And he starts shuffling through it, and he says, you see, the true Divine isn't a fan of her presence here, and he's been trying to find a way to subvert her. And he thinks he's found a way to do it through the Lucerni. So, here's the thing. Anyone who's not an idiot knows that Dorian is in the Lucerni. Like, he can't openly admit it, right? Like, he can't say I'm in the Lucerni, but, like, everything he's done so far has been to support the Lucerni. So, he apparently doesn't know that Dorian is a member of the Lucerni, which makes him an extraordinary dumbass.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I love that.
Actually, this is great for you. Good news.
Right? I know. It's so good, but that's so funny.
And Dorian is sitting in the back, like, he stares at him, like, in confusion, then he looks over at, like, Sabre, like, is this guy fucking serious?
I've just got, like, my mouth open, and I'm just like, like, even I.
Like, what the? Oh, boy.
He says, the true Divine believes that if he can disrupt the Lucerni, that he can disrupt her. And he says, so far as we can tell, here's the letter. And he turns around and he hands you a tiny little postcard. It's not addressed. It's not signed, but it is in his possession, so clearly it was sent to him. And it reads, meet at the Imperial Chantry in 2 weeks. We've sent an agent to Orlais who should be reporting back then. The blasphemous Southern Divine is hiding something about the little Mundanus in her inner circle, something big. We're going to find it first. Elian, roll cultural lore to see if you know what a Mundanus is.
Okie dokie.
With a 16, not really. You've definitely heard the word before. It is a specifically Tevinter word. It is a word, the word is in Tevin, but you're not sure of exactly what it means. You think it's like an insult, but you're not 100% sure. And he says, the agent of the true Divine, he's probably already on his way to Orlais now. You might be able to intercept him, but I can't imagine how you could possibly get to Orlais before him. Dorian's like, yeah, how could we possibly get to Orlais before someone who's on foot? I can't imagine.
Well, I'm afraid we shall just have to try. I'm sure we can find something.
Will you go yourself, then? He says leeringly.
It has been so long since I've seen my homeland, you understand.
He says, oh, but surely the beauties of Orlais cannot compare to the richness of Tevinter. Dorian in the back, like...
I'll admit it is hard to tear myself away from the opulence here. But if I must, I must.
He said, truly, a tragedy to think you'll be away for some time. Perhaps afterwards we can see about reuniting.
Oh, absolutely.
Dorian abruptly is like, I have to go, and he like dives out the door.
Oh, God. Like, out a window, like, bye!
Just, like, leaps out a window. Then he dives out the front door, and he just, like, laughs hysterically until it's all out of his system.
I think I use that as an excuse to follow out, just, Dorian, how dare you?
You come outside, and Dorian has, like, both hands on the wrought iron fence, and he's just, like, laughing so hard he cannot breathe.
Elian punches him.
Legit.
Oh, it's so sad to be away from the opulence of Tevinter.
Fuck off.
That was the best entertainment I've had in a very long time.
Breathe a word and I will kill you.
My ribs hurt.
I'm sorry, you think that Leander doesn't want to know about this? Leander's gonna think it's as funny as we do.
If you tell him, I will murder you, but not before making it very painful. Am I understood?
Won't you miss the opulence of Tevinter?
No, I will not miss it. I find it a little too much.
He says, okay, so what's our next move then?
Getting back to our lay, I guess.
What did that little paper say?
Well, so that was something I was just going to ask you about, Tessa. Can I have conveniently forgotten to give it back in the abruptness of Dorian's leaving?
Oh, sure.
Oh,
I'm
good.
like, he's a dumbass. If he didn't notice, like, Dorian and Lucerdi, he's like, what the fuck is a paper? I was holding a paper? Who knew?
He is clearly an idiot. So.
Right?
Yeah, read it yourself.
He takes the paper, he reads it over. He says, Mundanus. He says, well, that can only refer to you.
What?
He says, Mundanus. It's a derogatory term that Tevinters use for non-mages, specifically human non-mages. There's another word for elves that's much less kind. He says, if he believes the divine is hiding something about a Mundanus, you're the only one.
Oh, no.
What's so special about you?
Are you going to tell them, Elian?
Have you been keeping secrets, Elian?
You all know that I'm wanted, right?
Yes, I do remember hearing something about that.
They think that I murdered the Grand Cleric.
I'm looking around blankly. I don't know what that means.
And...
What?
A religious leader. A leader of the church. Sort of, I guess, like one of your cardinals.
He says, okay, so what about it?
I was framed. There's a secret sect of the Chantry, and the Grand Cleric headed this sect, and I need to find out why I would have been set up for it. I don't know what purpose it serves to frame me.
Dorian says, what on earth is the dissonance?
They're concerned with canticle literalism, Dorian. They're looking for the truth behind all of our faith.
He says, and someone framed you as the murderer of the woman who headed up this weird cult-like sect of the Chantry.
Yes.
Dorian glances back at the note and says, well, I suppose that could be what this is referring to.
I mean, maybe.
You are the only Mundanus in the Divine's immediate circle, which is to say the only human non-mage. He says, well, all right. We can certainly take the Illuvian through to Kirkwall and try to beat this runner, or assassin, or whoever it is the Black Divine has sent, I suppose. He says, all right, to Orlais. Can I pass prematurely? I've been to Orlais, and I don't really have much of a desire to go back.
What? Do you find it too opulent? Or not opulent enough?
He says, oh, no, it's mostly the food. I'm not a big fan of the food.
Oh, wrong thing to say.
I don't know how you Southerners stand all that bland food.
Kaz is like, yeah, I know.
Dorian's like, looks at you conspiringly. He's like, right? There's no flavor.
Absolutely terrible. It's cheese. Just, ugh.
What is the point of cheese?
I don't know.
Hey friends, Tessa here. If you're desperate to hear the next episode, chances are good that you can by joining our Discord server. We post links to all episodes and pre-release, and you can even chat with us and listen live as we record. Join us by going to bit.ly/CFCDiscord. For more information on the show, character biographies, and links to social media, head to our website, critfail.club or critfailclub.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Crit Fail Club does not advertise at all, so if you like what you hear, tell a friend who might also like it, make a post on social media about it, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Full episodes are available on our YouTube channel, bit.ly/CFC channel, or wherever you get your podcasts.